Good morning, students. From history, today our topic of discussion is hunger, hardships, and popular revolts. 1830 is the year of great hardship. During the first world half of the 19th century, there was an enormous increase of population all over Europe. People from rural areas migrated to the cities in search of jobs. This aggravated the problem of unemployment. In town, small procedures had to face small producers had to face steep competition from imports of machine-made goods from England, where industrializations had started in the mid 18th century. And this was particularly so in the textile industry. The peasants groaned under the heavy burden of feudal dues and obligations. The 1830s were years of great economic hardship in Europe. Poor grain harvest, the appearance of blight, an extremely serious disease in the potato crop, and generally depressed economic condition across much of Europe in 1845 and 1846 led the rise in food prices and unemployment. The revolution of 1830 had not satisfied the people. Governments which had made concessions were careful to keep in their hands powers which turned down the democratic movements. Everywhere, the right to vote was defined in terms of property, qualifications, with powers in the hands of wealthier middle classes. The practice of poll rigging was quite common, and opposition parties did not get an opportunity to come to power. And next is 1848, the revolution of liberals. This political and economic condition led to the outbreak of revolutions in Europe. The year 1848 again witnessed another round of revolutions. Food shortages, unemployment brought the population of Paris out in the streets. Barricades were created, and Louis Philippe was forced to flee. The National Assembly proclaimed that a republic granted voting rights to all males above 21 years and guaranteed right to work. National workshops were set up to provide employment. In the year 1845, there was a revolt in Silesia. It was led by the weavers against contractors, who supplied them raw materials and placed orders for finished textiles. The contractors had reduced the payments. The events in a Silesian village have been described by William Wolfe, a journalist. In this way, it was said, in this village, cotton weaving is the most widespread occupation. The misery of the workers is extreme. The desperate needs for jobs has been taken advantage of the contractors to reduce the prices of the goods they order. In relation, the workers on June 4 came out of their houses in large number and marched to the sprawling houses of their contractors, demanding higher wages. They were threatened with dire consequences, but this didn't discourage them. Rather, they broke into the contractor's house, smashed elegant window panes, furniture, etc. Then they broke into the storehouse and plundered the cloth and tore to pieces. The contractors, with the families, fled to the neighboring villages, but people refused to give them shelter. They returned later with the help of the army. Even weavers were shot. Apart from the revolts of the peasants, workers, poor and unemployed, there was another revolution which was led by educated middle class. In France, in February 1848, the events had forced the abdication of the ruler, and a republic based on universal male suffrage had been proclaimed. In another countries of Europe where independent nations didn't exist, such as German, Poland, Italy, Austria Hungary, men and women of liberal middle classes wanted national unification and constitutionalism. They desired for the creation of nation state on democratic principles like constitution, freedom of press, freedom of association, etc. In the German region, a number of political associations whose members were drawn from middle class societies like professionals, businessmen, and prosperous artisans came together in the city of Frankfurt and decided to vote for an all German National Assembly. Frankfurt Assembly was the first freely elected parliament for all Germans. It was in session between 18 May 1848 to 31st May 1849 that 831 elected representatives took their places in Frankfurt Assembly, which met at St. Paul Church. The participants mostly represented the educated class. More than three-fourths had been to the university. They had studied jurisprudence. Many were self-employed like lawyers, journalists, doctors, etc. The constitution drawn for the German nation was based on principles of democracy. It fulfilled the main demands of the liberals and nationalist government. It would have a list of basic rights and a constitutional monarchy headed by hereditary emperor. The Frankfurt Assembly and the constitution it drafted failed as the Prussian ruler Frederick William IV refused to accept the office of the emperor when it was offered to him. He declined the offer because it was not offered by the princes of German states but by the elected representative. In fact, Frederick William IV believed in the divine rights of the king. His chief minister Bismarck also advised him not to accept the crown of shame because it has offered by the elected representative. While the opposition of the aristocracy and the military became stronger, the social basis of the parliament eroded. The European powers had recognized the German Confederation of 1815 and not the Frankfurt Assembly. The parliament was dominated by the middle classes who resisted the demands of the workers and artisans and lost their support. The assembly came to an end in May 1849. This ended the attempts of the liberals to unite Germany. Now Germany was to be united by the policy of blood and iron initiated by Bismarck. It meant building up a strong army and successful wars. Till this much today. Thank you.